Hi everybody, this is Hero from the Birds back with another Shadowlands video, and I'd like to take a look at my progress with this Affliction Shadowbolt build. I've had a chance to test it now that we have access to double legendaries. So let's kind of walk through some logs of Halondrus, and we'll also take a look at the Skolex, the snake boss, and talk about what's going on with this build. Just as a review, the purpose of this build is to take Malefic Wrath, but instead of using this alongside Drain Soul, we're going to be in Necrolord and make use of Nightfall. What does that give us access to? Well, because of the double legendary, our Decimating Bolt is going to give us crit chance and crit damage for the next 3 Shadowbolts. So instead of it just being 1 Drain Soul, Decimating Bolt is offering 3 Shadowbolts bonus damage. So we're going to be trying to manipulate that in our builds in order to do giant Shadowbolt damage. And it's a lot of fun, guys. In single target, we're taking Siphon Life with Dark Soul Misery because we don't have extra targets to manage, so Absolute Corruption and Creeping Death are not as necessary. I think with the 4-piece, because I'm only running this on 2-piece, Creeping Death goes up in value, and I still think you want Siphon Life probably in single target. But Absolute Corruption is probably okay because we can generate a little bit more in the way of soul shards because we get some more free Malefic Wrath casts with the 4-piece. Anyways, make sure that you are taking your Conduit, Withering Bolt. I'm here in Hyremere in part because I have Emini for demo, and my Destro is currently Merileth, so I just have them partitioned out. One thing I do like about Hyremere is the guaranteed crit chance from our Necrolord Legendary means we'll have Marrowed Gemstones basically on time every 60 seconds. Also make sure you take Rolling Agony so that you have access to a slightly longer Agony cast, both for any cleave and for single target. I'm going to show you my use of this in single target across 2 bosses, one where we don't Lust on Pull, that's Halondrus, one where we do Lust on Pull, the snake boss, and we'll talk about what makes this effective. But just so you can see what the opener looks like in real time, here we have our Siphon Life and Dark Soul Misery on single target. You're going to open with Unstable Affliction, put your dots up, and then we're going to be casting in this order, Decimating Bolt first, and then second, we're going to cast Phantom Singularity and then extend them all before we go into our burst window. And the reason we do this is so that they line up perfectly every time. You can hold your Decimating Bolt buff until the next Decimating Bolt cast, so those 3 Shadowbolts can be put anywhere in that 45-second window, but it's nice to have Phantom Singularity last so that you have it up for all of your Shadowbolt casts. So here's what it looks like. Get Agony rolling, immediately get Corruption rolling. You can build with your Malefic Raptures if you want. Get one more, and then your Decimating Bolt, extending everything, of course, with your dude. If you can try to cast your Shadowbolts and wait for a Nightfall proc, that's fine. But otherwise, just use your Dark Soul wisely to cast as much as you can. Extend your dots and go to town. Notice we're casting as many Shadowbolts as we possibly can within the window of Phantom Singularity because it's a 20% damage amp. And just a note for the differences between single target, if you are only on 2-piece and you don't have access to 4-piece, you will not get as many procs of your Malefic Wrath, so keeping up Raptures a little more difficult in single target under these circumstances. You'll want to wait until you're around the 3-second mark. If you have access to the 4-piece, what you can do is be a little more liberal with your Malefic Wrath cast because you won't time out the buff. So this is what it looks like in single target, guys. Obviously, this scales really nicely across multiple targets because as you add Corruption and Agony to other targets, you are then giving yourself resources, both the Soul Shards and, more importantly, the Nightfall procs. Let's head over to the logs, and I'll just show you a couple of logs that I was working with. Here's Halondrus kill. Again, don't worry too much about the parsing. That's not as important right now. Mostly I just want to show you what are we, 252 with double legendaries kind of looks like. The damage profile is always going to look something like this. In single target, obviously Siphon Life is here because we can maintain it. And I just want to show you a brief replay of what the opener looks like so that you can see it Again, we're not getting PI or anything like that. I'm just going to show you damage done, and you can see from my perspective the casts that I'm doing in order. So we open with Unstable Affliction into Agony, put up our dots as you just saw there, and then we're going to try our best to do Decimating Bolt into Phantom Singularity, get our Raptures up, extend everything, and then go to town with Shadowbolts. There we did get a proc. So in the opener, because we have Dark Soul running, we will get a slightly greater uptick of Soul Shard generation from Agony because it's ticking far more often in that window. But just be careful. Don't overcast Malefic Raptures. Instead, you want to bank them up over the course of a fight so that you always have one present to extend the buff. Anyways, that's kind of what the opener looks like. Again, this build, whether in single target or as it gets better as you add targets for cleave, is always going to be better as you move toward execute because the Decimating Bolt is going to give you bonus damage. And you can think about, especially in cleave environments or in Mythic Plus, sniping low HP targets with your Decimating Bolt to give your next round of Shadowbolts that much more damage. So it amplifies up to, like, I guess technically 200%, but you never are going to hit anything at that low HP. So 180 to 190% bonus damage is pretty awesome. So try to take advantage of that if you can. Here on single target, obviously we cannot do that in the opener. As we move to the end of the fight, you can see here we get into Lust phase, and our Shadowbolts are going to start doing a lot more damage whenever we have a chance to cast our Decimating Bolt. If we go back to the analysis and look at Skolex, you can see again an example here on damage done where we're just pumping a lot of damage through Shadowbolt. You can see on this one our max damage for our Shadowbolts was 47k. Again, I'm not really playing this perfectly. These were just me testing these out with a 2-piece. But if you look at the average cast for Halondrus, the average cast of our Shadowbolts was 12k in 252 gear. Here on Skolex, the average cast of our Shadowbolts is about 10.6 or 11k. That just shows you we're cast 95 of these, and on average they're hitting for 11,000 damage, which is pretty awesome. But of course it's peaking at these giant numbers like 47k. I'll show you the replay here as well so that you can see my casts in context. And the difference here, of course, is we're lusting on pull. What you'll see as we get these things going, and I think I screwed up the order a little bit, but that's okay. Malefic Rapture goes out, and then we start casting giant Shadowbolts. We get upwards of about 20,000 damage in our opener in 252 gear. Again, what I love about this build is we're moving away from Drain Soul, but we're retaining some of the benefits of a double legendary. People have talked a lot about how Affliction basically is garbage. Our tier set is garbage, and double legendaries isn't really offering us anything near what it's offering to Demo and Destro. And while this may be true to some degree, one of the things I want to emphasize is what this build is trying to do is capitalize especially on what the 2-piece offers and what the 4-piece offers. Both of those are essentially saying, I want you to cast Shadowbolt. Drain Soul maybe, but what Necrolord says is, I will give you far more of a bonus if you spend your time casting Shadowbolt than any other approach or build. You could do Kyrian and guarantee that you have another dot on the target, but that's only 20% bonus damage. What we're talking about here is Decimating Bolt offering you, on average, 20 to 25% of your Shadowbolts being these gigantic missiles of death. And I'm not even really doing them justice here. At the end of some of these, when you get into your 260 gear in 4-piece, you're going to have some massive Shadowbolts going out, guys. Anyways, I just thought I'd show you this. By the end of the fight, what do we had about 9k in 252 gear. Really, really happy with this build. Obviously, if you're looking at the parsing, it's doing completely fine in single target environments. You can imagine for Prototype Pantheon, I did go Destro to test some things out in our re-clear here. But you can imagine what kind of mileage we could get with AC, just having all of those dots ticking for far more uptime on Nightfall. I thought I'd show you this because I want to try my best to give you a taste of what kind of options are available if you want to play Affliction, and you have been told you only can play this Covenant. Take a look at Necrolord, guys. What it's offering is something quite substantial if you look at Shadowbolt. We've been used to seeing only the Drain Soul version of this, but try it out with some crazy Withering Bolt, Shadowbolt stuff. I think you'll have a lot of fun. Anyways, that's all for me for this time. We will catch you guys again next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.